Good afternoon and welcome to another video with a guy and his projects. Today we are working on the 2004 WJ. This is a Jeep Grand Cherokee limited edition. It is the 4.7 liter with the 545 RFE, something like that, transmission. And what we're doing today is we're putting a dadgum frickin' drain plug on the transmission pan and hopefully killing that cricket in the background. Hear that? He's really obnoxious. I'm a long way from home right now, and I get the feeling I'm gonna get home and all I'm gonna hear on the video is that cricket, and it's gonna drive me insane. I'm gonna have to come all the way back out here and redo this video, but I can't shut the dang thing up. I've yelled at him, I've whistled at him, I've even said, hey cricket, cricket, would you please be quiet? None of it's working, so we're just gonna have to deal with it. Hopefully it's not overpowering in the video. Hopefully I don't have to do this again, but we're gonna find out. So Jeep, in their infinite wisdom and in agreement with pretty much every other car manufacturer except Nissan, decided to not put a transmission pan drain bolt on here. I get it. They want to discourage people like me from doing DIY videos and showing everybody else how to do their own crap. So they make it as miserable as possible, so you make big messes. But we're going to fix that because Dorman has a transmission pan that has a drain plug that we're going to install on this Jeep. So if you would like to follow along and see how I do it, let's go for it. I'm more than happy to show you. Remember, this is not how to do, but this is a how I do video. So today we're changing the transmission fluid, we're going to change the transmission filters, and we're going to change the transmission pan, gasket, and pan to one that has a drain plug to make life easier for later. And I'll show you here in a little bit how much easier it is with a drain plug. Alright, so I'm gonna jack this Jeep up and get myself some room to get under it because I need to get you guys under there with me, and we don't all fit under there when it's just sitting on the ground. However, if you're skinny enough and by yourself and you can slide under there, go for it. I would recommend at least jacking it up, putting on jack stands though. I am using ATF plus 4. I would recommend buying 8 or 9 quarts, and I mean, obviously you're going to fit what needs to fit, but I would recommend 8 to 9 quarts because ultimately I ended up putting 7.5 in this thing. I will link all this fluid down in the description below, as well as the filters and the pan for you to purchase. If you do click on my Amazon links, I am an Amazon affiliate, and I will get a commission on anything you buy within 24 hours, which is super helpful and very much so appreciated. I also have a Zelle and PayPal information in the description if you want to donate directly to the channel to help keep these videos coming. So first things first, jack the sucker up in park with chocks on the tires if you can. And you're going to want to get yourself some room to get under there. So I have no idea what this wind and cricket's doing to this video, but we're going to find out. Alright, so a lot of people just jam on in here with an impact gun and zing all these bolts off. You're more than welcome to do that. I personally like to take a hand ratchet and crack all these loose first. Reason being, that's what I like to do. I can feel if it's going to break before it breaks instead of just being like, oh no, when the impact rips it apart. Whatever you want to do, do you. I don't really care how you do yours. But I'm going to break all these loose with a ratchet before I jump in with the impact to zing them out the rest of the way. So as you're pulling this pan off, realize that the fluid's going to start spilling and try to be strategic about it. Take all of them off of one corner, the corner you want, and kind of work your way around. That way when the pan starts to drop, it all flows out that corner into your pan. I say all, I mean it's going to make a mess, but you can at least try to, minimize the damage. Once you've drained most of the fluid out of whatever corner you've decided, go ahead and remove the rest of the bolts. Hold the pan up there with one hand while you unscrew all the bolts so that you can then drop the pan gently, easily, without spilling until you're ready to dump it in your drain pan. Once you get the pan removed, you're going to see your 2 filters up there. Okay, I like to leave these in place for just another minute. I grab a wire brush on my drill and I just kind of clean everything all up. This is going to spit debris into your transmission. Make sure you clean that back up. Alternatively, you can use a scraper, you can use a rag, some sandpaper, whatever you want to use without marring the surface to get the surface area clean. I use the wire brush, love it, just got to do some cleanup when you're done. Okay, once you've got the mating surfaces cleaned, you can use a T25 Torx bit. This is going to remove that flat filter that you see up there, okay? Well, it's going to unbolt it. So you remove that T25, keep that screw, you're going to want it back in just a minute. And then you can grab that filter and kind of pull it down. It might be stuck to a seal. If the seal comes with the filter, fantastic. If the seal gets stuck up in there, you're gonna have to use a pick or a screwdriver, and without marring any surfaces, do your best to get that thing out of there. I noticed while I was in here, so this Jeep is a 2004 and it's got 180,000 miles on it, and the filter in the transmission had a date on it of October 2005, which is interesting to me because one, it means this transmission hasn't been touched. This is 2023, since 2005. That's a long time to not touch it. It's got 180,000 miles on it now. Why that? None of that bothers me. What's interesting is why they got into it a year after production. Maybe there was a recall. Maybe the new owner was like, hey, we got to maintain this. I don't really know the history, but I find it interesting. Nothing wrong. I mean, it's put on, you know, a lot of miles, 18 years worth of miles since then, no problems. I just found it interesting, kind of cool. All right, so to get that round filter off, I used a filter wrench. I couldn't Hercules it off. I had to use a filter wrench. I will link one of these in the description below for you. And I was able to pop that filter off. No big deal. All right, so once we had the filters removed, I took the opportunity to go ahead and clean up a little bit more. I just used a lint-free towel and just cleaned it up, got rid of the debris, used some compressed air if you want to try and get all your metal debris out there, some brake clean, whatever you want to do, just don't ruin your transmission. So let's talk about the filter seal on the flat filter, the one that I used a pick to get out. This is very important. I didn't know this. I had to get back into the transmission again after I was all done with this job to fix this. So me and my infinite dumbness, I put the new seal around the filter and then I stuck the filter up in place. What happened is it didn't seal correctly, which wouldn't allow the transmission to go into gear later. So what you need to do is take that little seal, stick it up in there, and use your thumbs and get that thing to sit flush in the housing. It's got to sit perfectly flush. It's got to seal. And then stick your flat filter up into it and use that torque screw, that T25, and screw your filter down. Very important. Like I said, I had to go back after everything was done and I put this thing into gear, but I wouldn't go into gear. So very important to do that. I installed the round filter. So before you install the round filter, there's a little plastic nipple that comes with the new filter probably. You've got to torque that down. My filter had instructions in the box of what to torque that down to. So you got to torque the nipple into the filter. There's a little O-ring on there. And then you got to take the filter, stick it up in the transmission, and torque that down as well. What'll happen, or what can happen if you don't do that, is over time that can start to spin loose and you're going to have issues. So don't play around with that. Do it correctly. Read your instructions. I'm sorry at this point. I realize that there's fluid on the lens. I'll clean it up in a minute when I see it, but for now, bear with me. We'll get it in a minute. The magnet situation. I was actually really impressed with the magnet on the old pen. It was very actually clean. I've changed a lot of transmission pan magnets in my time, and usually they're caked with metal debris. This one, hardly anything on. I mean, there was stuff on it, but there was hardly anything in comparison to any other transmission I've ever worked on. This was very, very clean, which is really good considering 180,000 miles, and it's been 18 years since the last time the pan was dropped, allegedly based off filter date. And I was very impressed. So I cleaned that magnet off. I took that magnet off of the old pan, put it on the new pan. So before you install your new pan on, if you're using one with a drain plug like I have, I've never had this issue, but I don't want to have it. So I put a ratchet on the new pan drain plug, and I just break that fill plug or drain plug loose, just to make sure that it's going to break loose before I get it all installed and excited, and the next time I go in I can't break it loose. So don't set yourself up for false expectations. Break it loose now and kill these big gigantic flies. And yeah, I mean, just so before the pan goes up, I grab the new gasket and I just lay it out all nice and pretty, and then I stick a couple screws through it, usually 3, 4, 5, whatever it takes to kind of hold that gasket down, because this is going to help you later. It's going to line up the hole, so when you stick it up into the transmission, you can just start zinging those in, and it's a lot less to hold on to. So speaking of which, go ahead and put the pan up and start zinging those screws in. You're not torquing these down right now. Right now we're just getting them started in the holes and getting a few threads in just to hold the pan in place. If you tighten this down, any of those holes where the gasket falls over on, you're going to have a pissing hard time to get those to line up. So just get a few threads in the holes of the bolts and move on to the next one. Once all 15 or whatever bolts you have are in place, then you can start your torque sequence. I don't know the torque specs. I want to say it's like 10 foot-pounds. Look it up for yourself and verify. But you're going to do whatever torque sequence makes you feel comfortable. You can start from the center, you know, one side, the other side, boom, 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 work your way back and then back forward. Go in a circle, whatever floats your boat. Most people seem to like to do the alternating sides, just for your info. All right, we are now done downstairs. Hopefully, cross your fingers and toes. And you're gonna go up, pop your hood, and pull your dipstick for the transmission. You're gonna get yourself a funnel, and you're gonna get yourself your quarts of fluid. I like to shake my fluid up just to get any suspended additives like that have fallen out of suspension into suspension. That sounded really weird, but you get what I'm saying. All right, look at your service manual to figure out how much fluid you should put in there, and then I like to start with a quart less than what it says. Mine says 5.5 quarts, so I started with 4, and it was nowhere close to enough. Wasn't even on the dipstick, so I ended up adding quite a bit more. Just to get on the dipstick was about 6 quarts. So once I got it on the dipstick, I went in, I turned the Jeep on, fired it up, and then I shifted from reverse to neutral to park to drive, whatever. I shifted down, shifted back up. That's when I realized I was having issues and it wasn't actually shifting. And I went downstairs, pulled the drain plug, which was super nice having, by the way, drained all the fluid into a clean bucket again, and I fixed that seal we already talked about. You don't need to see that because we already showed it. So moving on, put everything back together, went back up, put another 6 quarts in before it was on the dipstick, fired the Jeep up again, shifted through the gears, boom, 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 went and checked the dipstick. It disappeared from the dipstick, so I put in another quart, and it was on the cold side. So we're at 7 quarts now to get it in the cold mark, which the transmission was cold. Take it for a drive, get it nice and warm, check it again, and I added almost another whole entire quart to get it in the warm mark. And so we're pretty much just over 8 quarts in this transmission, which I find odd because nowhere in the service manual can I say that it's where it should be. Everybody's, come on, man, this fly is like stuck to my hand. So I found that interesting, but it's not over full according to the dipstick. All looks well. It's shifting fine. We drove it up here to the mountains, no problem. Essentially every time you add more fluid, you're gonna want to go back in the Jeep, fire it up, and run it through the gears again, and make sure that your dipstick still looks good. By the way, I am checking my fluid with the vehicle running and in park. Key point of information there. So again, every time you add fluid, shift through the gears, check it while it's in park and running, and you're good. So at this point also, you want to make sure you don't have any leaks. So once you're done playing around, climb back under, check for leaks, make sure everything's still dry, and everything is hunky-dory. So again, guys, thanks for watching. That's how I changed my transmission fluid. Now going forward, I got the drain plug. All the drain plug does is let you drain all the big amounts of fluid controlled into a bucket before you pull the pan down and make a big mess. It just saves a lot of mess. I don't know why we refuse to put drain plugs on transmissions, but this one has one now. Again, everything linked down below: fluid, filters, pan, gaskets, all that stuff, tools, linked in the description below. Check them out, click the links, buy something from Amazon. It helps me out, of course, with a little commission. As well, direct link to PayPal and my Zelle information if you would like to donate directly to the channel. Leave me a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, let me know if you did this project and how well it went, and keep coming back. I got well over 200 videos on the channel. We've got like 8.7 thousand subscribers now. Appreciate every single one of you. Keep on coming back. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Adios.